It is June 10th, 2024. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Councilmember Ross.
Present, well, here by phone.
Councilmember Tapia.
Present.
Councilmember Littlewer. Councilmember Stone. Here. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Here.
Mayor Rotary.
Here, we have a quorum. Everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, you may want to confirm Councilmember Ross's remote participation.
Absolutely. Councilmember Ross, when did your twins graduate from Highland Park High School?
Didn't have to do that.
2017.
That's you. Okey-doke. Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the regular city council meeting held May 28th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the city council meeting held May 28th, 2024?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Those minutes are also approved. May I have a motion to approve the warrant list?
Move to approve. Oh, second.
Okay. Any comments or questions on the warrant list? Hearing none, will the clerk call the vote?
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone. Aye. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotary.
Aye. 5 ayes, no nays, and the warrant list is approved. We'll now continue to the report of the mayor. Before I discuss appointments, I'd like to say that while we celebrate this weekend's success in bringing 4 hostages home, we continue to call for the safe return of all who are being held hostage in Gaza. By keeping their plight and the worry and the grief of their family members here in Highland Park, in Israel, and around the world front of mind, we stand in solidarity with them during this horrific time. I do have 2 appointments this evening. First, I am recommending the reappointment of Jeremy Rosen to serve on the Housing Commission effective July 11, 2024 through December 31, 2027. And Steve, do you want us to take action separately on both?
You can.
So I'm seeking concurrence, I guess, council consent
Consent by voice vote.
by voice vote. So I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Rosen, for your volunteer work on the Housing Commission. Next, I'd like to recognize and thank former council member Jeff Hubler for his service to the city of Highland Park. In line with the Illinois Municipal Code, it is the mayor's responsibility, with the advice and consent of the city council, to appoint a resident to fill the open seat on the city council within 60 days of the vacancy. This individual will serve until a new council member is elected to a 2-year term during the April 2025 general municipal election. In Highland Park, it's been our practice to introduce a recommended appointee for the consent of the city council. And with that, I hereby appoint Barissa Bruckman to serve as city council member. Barissa was selected from a group of 19 candidates following interviews with me and with the full city council. We are tremendously appreciative of her willingness to serve the community in this capacity. And so with that, I am seeking a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
And that motion and second are to consent to the appointment.
I consent.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Councilmember Ross, I think you wanted to say something as well? Okay, maybe not. But actually,
I'm here.
okay, is that an aye?
I just wanted to, we're all having a chance to say something.
If people want to say something, they may. Councilmember Littlewer is unable to attend tonight's city council meeting, but she did prepare a statement, which she requested that I read to the public. She's actually in Israel for her son's wedding as we speak, or maybe the wedding's happened. It has happened. All right, congratulations to Councilmember Littlewer and her family. Here is her statement. Dear Mayor Rotering, thank you for doing a diligent search to replace City Council member Jeff Hubler on the City Council. I'm confident that you engaged in a comprehensive process before making your recommendations to the City Council. I was also impressed that you brought 2 excellent candidates before the Council for final interviews. Before I extend my full support to Barissa Bruckman's candidacy, I do want to observe that in losing Councilmember Hubler, the city lost a champion for economic and business development. This is significant, and I hope we continue to focus on economic development as a priority and as a pillar. Having said that, as council liaison to the PDC, the Plan Design Commission, I've witnessed Barissa's thorough preparation and participation in one of the city's most crucial commissions. I believe the depth of her work and experience will suit her candidacy and tenure well. I look forward to working with her in her new role on the council and feel sure she is committed to do right by the city and can meet the demands of the job. Thanks once again for letting my voice be heard in support of Barissa as I am in Israel, attending my son's wedding at the time of this reading. All the best, Annette Littler, council member. Councilmember Tapia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, some welcoming remarks too. I welcome you, Barissa, to our city council. Along with our colleagues here, I'm happy to offer any assistance in your onboarding. It wasn't too long ago, just 3 years, when I was new to the city council, and the learning curve is quite steep. Given the circumstances that led to Jeff Hubler having to step down, which led to this opening, I want to reiterate that the position that Jeff held, as elected by the majority of Highland Park voters, was a declaration by voters that economic development and environmental sustainability needed to be one of the city's priorities, along with what the city already has been doing well regarding infrastructure, public safety, and financial stability. With your appointment by unanimous consent, I look forward to benefiting from your experience in human resources and governmental organizations as we all apply our diverse skills in different arenas in the shaping of policy across all that is within the purview of our city council as we address the totality of the city's needs across every neighborhood, every demographic, every socioeconomic segment. Among these needs is the nurturing and strengthening of our two one-year-old pillars of environmental sustainability and economic development. As the green shoots they require particular attention and focus to ensure they become as strong and sustainable as the other traditional pillars of public safety, infrastructure, and financial stability, which is what Highland Park deservedly is already known for. Let's make sure it is also known as a thriving business-friendly city and a leader in urban environmental sustainability. I look forward to working with you, Barissa, and the rest of City Council on an even more vibrant, safe, financially sound, economically prospering, environmentally sustainable, and inclusive Highland Park. So welcome.
Thank you. Did you have any comments?
I just very briefly want to welcome you aboard. I'm excited to be working with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to welcome you as well, and I'm excited to work with you, and as I said earlier, to give up the title of youngest council member.
Councilmember Ross, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I wanted to say I'm sorry that I cannot be present in person to welcome you, Barissa, but I have 2 sick family members, and out of an abundance of caution, I am participating by phone. You have a very impressive resume in the world of government. Your master's in public policy and your background working in the administrations of United States presidents as well as the mayor of Chicago should serve you well. I hope you'll bring helpful government knowledge and perspective to this role. Thank you for stepping up to do this work. You have young children, so you'll bring a fresh perspective of a parent who currently has children in our school district. And thank you for stepping up for this.
Great, thank you. And we welcome Cameron and Braden and your husband Joel and your mother. At this time, I will meet you down here and we will do the oath of office. Do solemnly affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois
and the Constitution of the State of Illinois
and the ordinances of the City of Highland Park,
and the ordinances of the City of Highland Park,
and I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of the office
the duties of the office
of council member of the City of Highland Park, Illinois,
of council member of the City of Highland Park, Illinois,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Fantastic. Welcome.
Thank you.
turn your name tag around so you're official. Wonderful. So again, congratulations, Councilmember Brookman. We're delighted to have you here, and you're welcome to share a few comments if you'd like to.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Mayor Rotering, City Council members, and cherished residents of Highland Park. It is with immense pride and gratitude that I stand before you today, or sit before you today as a lifelong Highland Park resident and soon to be, well, now newly installed member of our City Council, ready to hit the ground running. Thank you to my husband, Joel, and my two sons, Cameron and Braden, and my mother, Marcy, who is here today, for all your support. I couldn't do this without you, and I would like to acknowledge today would have been my father's 69th birthday. He passed away 7 years ago, but I know how proud he was of me, and he would be today. As we embark on this journey together, I am inspired by the spirit of positive progress that defines our community. Together, let us embrace the opportunities ahead, working collaboratively to enhance the quality of life for all those who call Highland Park home. With that, I would just like to say, for our Hamilton fans like me, I conclude I have the honor to be your obedient servant, B. Brookman. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Brookman. On behalf of the council, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to all who expressed their interest in serving in this role. Your enthusiasm and your interest were inspiring to me and to my council colleagues, and I encourage you to explore ways to engage with our community going forward. Continuing on under the report of the mayor. Oh, are we leaving? Okay, goodbye. Okay, thank you. We have no proclamations this evening. Under other business, it is my great pleasure to welcome Dr. Mark Nolan Hill, who's joining us this evening to provide an update from the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. This initiative is a binational coalition of mayors from communities in the United States and Canada who rely on water from the Great Lakes, working together to advance the protection and restoration of the Great Lakes ecosystem through development and implementation of a comprehensive Great Lakes protection and restoration plan. The initiative has numerous goals, including strengthening coastal resiliency given the impacts of climate change, advancing water equity, and leveraging economic benefits of freshwater resources. In a moment, I will invite Dr. Hill to share his important work, but I did also want to welcome my colleague and friend, Mayor Leon Rockingham from North Chicago. Thank you for joining us this evening. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I am Dr. Mark Hill, 1617 Ravine Terrace, and this is the 21st year that I am representing the City of Highland Park to the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative in a non-compensated and volunteer position. The Great Lakes St. Lawrence Cities Initiative is a 21-year-old binational consortium of Canadian and United States mayors and representatives who deal with sustainability and ecological issues of the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence River Basin. This was founded by former Chicago Mayor Rich Daley and former Toronto Mayor David Miller, and that's him right there. Mayor Miller is presently the director of C40 Cities. He's been a close friend to Carol Sue and myself, as well as to Highland Park, and he was to visit Highland Park and meet with the mayor and city manager last year, but it had to be rescheduled for this year. And Mayor, you may recall that I gave you a copy of his recent book last year, Solved, and Mayor Miller told me specifically that he hoped that you enjoyed it. There's David and myself. This year's meeting was in Montreal, interesting city. You can see the dichotomy of the old architecture with the new architecture, and I really learned what hockey fans are all about in Canada, that's for sure. It was hosted by His Worship Gino Moretti, and that's the mayor on the left. And the city of Chicago is represented by Mayor Brandon Johnson. And of note is the fact that in 21 years, Mayor Johnson is the only Chicago mayor since Mayor Daley who personally attended the entire meeting, and everyone found him to be most personable and engaging. Unfortunately, he was unable to attend. But wasn't he great, though, yes. Mayor? That's Mayor Moretti. There's Mayor Johnson. The North Shore is represented by Mayor Ann Taylor of Waukegan. She couldn't be here. Mayor Leon Rockingham Jr., that's him right there, and myself, and North Chicago, who spoke at the meeting. Mayor Billy McKinney of Zion, who was the past chair last year, who spoke, and Mayor Dr. Randy Tack of Lake Forest. There are now almost 300 members. When I began 21 years ago, there were 50 to 60, and this is all due to our president and CEO, John Altenberg. Now, he's also away at a meeting. This is where a lot of the folks that you sat there, Mayor. These are the 4 pillars of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence's initiative. Excusez-moi, s'il vous plaît, il est en français. I took the picture instead of the English one. I took it in French, but I'll tell you what that says. Climate change and coastal resilience, water equity and infrastructure, economic transformation, and ecosystem and source water protection. And multiple commissions have been formed relating to each of these pillars. Now, note that $50 billion has been allocated over 5 years by President Biden. And Mayor Brandon Johnson attended the White House Water Summit. And very importantly, Mayor Ann Taylor of Waukegan, and you'll recall this, Mayor, presented a resolution urging Governor Pritzker to move forward on the Corps of Engineers plan regarding the Asian carp problem, which has been an issue in all the 21 years of the organization's history, and particularly with respect to Mayor Daley. This resolution was passed unanimously, and I hope that Mayor Rodering perhaps will have an opportunity to engage with the governor about this. As I mentioned, Mayor Johnson was unable to attend, but his office sent me a note that he will address this. Ambassador David Cohen, the United States Ambassador to Canada, gave a most engaging presentation. However, the highlight of the meeting, in my opinion, was the focus and inclusion of the First Nations and tribal nations regarding economic reconciliation. First Nations and tribal nations are leading the way in generating innovative industries and initiatives that are helping to tackle the global climate crisis and better steward our waters. Yet these communities and industries continue to face barriers in accessing capital and opportunities for growth. And these barriers were examined by the initiative, and the initiative is committed to building meaningful and lasting relationships with them as part of our plans for economic reconciliation. To this end, the Turtle Island Scholarship was initiated to enhance direct engagement with the First Nations and tribal nations to work collaboratively to address challenges facing our shared water. And please allow me to define Turtle Island, because I had no idea what this meant. And I asked one of the elders to define this for me. Turtle Island is a name for Earth or North America used by indigenous persons based on a creation story common to those persons of the northeastern woodlands of North America. And this scholarship provides a platform for the initiative to work directly with them in Canada and the United States and support our mission to ensure all communities have a voice in advancing the environmental, economic, and social health of communities in the basin and the Great Lakes. There were multiple remarkable presentations by the First Nations and tribal nation elders, chiefs, and grand chiefs. And please excuse me for not naming them specifically, as I do not wish to insult them by my mispronunciations. No. They use a word, there's another picture. They use a word, binagami, which means pure, clean water, and is a call for action. Water is life. Mayor John Dickert, along with John Rogers, is presently meeting with the tribal representatives in Lac de Flambeau in Wisconsin, which is the Chippewa Indians' home since 1745. Finally, I was most fortunate to be invited to a private luncheon hosted by them with Mayors Cavalier Johnson, that's in Milwaukee, and Brandon Johnson, our Chicago mayor, and President Altenberg. moderating the questions. And that evening, Mayor Brandon Johnson and President Altenberg presented awards to them. And this included a young man, he's at the left of the screen, who is a PhD in microbiological recalcitrant resistant strains, well above my pay grade. And Carol Sue and I had the opportunity to chat in great length with this remarkable and bright young man. And that's President Altenberg finishing up. Thank you, Mayor and Council. All members of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence City Initiatives got this little gold pin that I'm wearing my lapel, and they kindly gave me some, if I may approach and pass them out. Can I do that, Mayor?
Is that, or do you want Dr. Hill to hand them to Aaron, since if that's okay? Yeah.
Well, all right, I will just, and you can wear them, and they're
We
very
really
nice.
appreciate it, and I so appreciate your coming and sharing your experience this round and your commitment to water. And I think you and I first met when I was on the Environmental Commission,
Yes,
and you were on the
that's right.
Lakefront Commission and
That's right.
all of that. And I meant to welcome Carol Sue. Thank you so much for coming this evening. But so appreciate
Thank you,
your
Mayor.
report and hearing all about what's going on. And I'm so glad that Mayor Johnson was there and that Mayor Rockingham was there and Mayor McKinney and was Mayor Taylor up there, or is she?
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Mayor
right.
Taylor was there, and she was the
Terrific.
one who did the resolution on the Asian carp.
Fantastic. Well, great. Always great
Thank
to
you.
see you.
Thank you, Mayor,
Thank you
for
so much,
allowing
and
me.
thank you for your gifts. We appreciate them. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon. Thank you so much for coming tonight, Mayor. Appreciate it. I'm going to continue on. In June, we celebrate Juneteenth, National Freedom Day. Each year, June 19 commemorates the date in 1865 when the scourge of slavery was finally ended in our country, when people finally got word that slavery had ended. Juneteenth is a reminder to all of us to reflect on our nation's history of slavery and the consequences of systemic racism that continue to impact communities of color and Black Americans today. Juneteenth is also a celebration of African American history, culture, and achievements. Lake County's Juneteenth Celebration and Reflection Festival will be held on Friday, June 14th through Sunday, June 16th from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Foss Park Inn. You betcha. Explore Black-owned businesses, art, and African clothing, and enjoy live performances by local artists celebrating the rich history of Lake County's African-American community. For more information, please visit JuneteenthLakeCounty.com. We couldn't have planned that better, could we? Appreciate you joining us this evening. This month, we also recognize National Immigrant Heritage Month. We're grateful to the generations of immigrants from every corner of the globe who have built our country's economy and created the unique character of our nation. Immigrants have provided Highland Park with unique social and cultural influence, fundamentally enriching the extraordinary character of our hometown. We recognize the countless contributions of immigrants throughout our history and continuing to the present day. And with that, I'm delighted to welcome Esteban Carbajal, supervising attorney representing the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic, who is with us this evening and who will say a few words about Immigrant Heritage Month. I gotta say, I'm liking the recipes that we're sharing with the world from everybody's grandma, great-grandma, and mom. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Rodering and council members, for recognizing Immigrant Heritage Month in Highland Park. This act of recognition acknowledges the invaluable contributions of immigrants to Highland Park, but also serves as a reminder of the diversity that makes our community so vibrant. We are all immigrants, and it is important to celebrate and honor the hard work and cultural richness that immigrants bring to our society. Your proclamation inspires a greater sense of understanding, respect, and inclusivity for all members of our community, regardless of their background or country of origin. Every family has an immigration story or knows someone who is an immigrant. At the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic, these stories are part of our daily lives, embodied in the faces of our clients, our board, our staff, our volunteers, and our partners. They remind us of the importance for providing free, accessible legal services to those facing immigration challenges, from DACA renewals and deportation defense to asylum seekers and beyond. This month, the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic is featuring collected photos, stories and recipes from the community. You can find them on our website and social media. We are pleased to remember who we are and where we came from, including the stories and recipes from those who immigrated here or whose ancestors did, and highlight the importance of providing free legal services to those who seek new possibilities and help forge our nation. With your partnership, we will continue to stand on the front lines, protecting and defending the rights of immigrants. If we don't have your story or recipe, please visit our website at www.nslegalaid.org for more information about how to submit it. And if you or someone you know needs legal aid, please know that we are here to help. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. And now at this time, we'll move on to business from the council. I'd like to invite Councilmember Stone, who serves as council liaison to Community Partners for Affordable Housing and to the Sustainability Advisory Group, to provide updates on the activities of each of these organizations.
Thank you, Mayor. Community Partners for Affordable Housing is a private, not-for-profit 501c3 that was created as a community land trust by the City of Highland Park. The city's relationship with this entity began in 2003 when the Housing Commission recommended that the city council approved the incorporation of the Highland Park Community Land Trust, the first community land trust in the state of Illinois and a model for community land trusts everywhere. Now called Community Partners for Affordable Housing, or CEPA, the organization has developed affordable housing in other communities throughout Lake and Northern Cook counties, including North Chicago. The City of Highland Park and CEPA maintain a healthy and successful partnership to promote affordable housing. As part of the city's affordable housing program, the city provides operating and scattered site grants to CEPA to continue the mission of developing and sustaining affordable housing in Highland Park. Operating grants were established to help CEPA with general operating and day-to-day program costs for its work on Highland Park-specific obligations. CEPA raises funds for operations and development from a variety of sources, including foundations, individuals, and also the city's Housing Trust Fund. The Scattered Site Grant Program was established to create permanently affordable housing throughout the community. CEPA works through its development arm, Affordable Housing Corporation, to purchase, renovate, and sell single-family and condominiums to income-eligible applicants. This program creates affordable ownership opportunities to households in an area where housing costs continue to rise. CEPA has also developed and maintains affordable rental units. There are 68 total scattered site single-family homes, condominiums, and rental units throughout the city. Over the years since its incorporation, CEPA has assembled a portfolio of affordable units to serve households earning 60 to 120% of the area median income by leveraging over just over $6 million in grants from the city's Housing Trust Fund with other state and federal resources. In 2022, the city awarded CEPA a $1 million development grant to construct 8 new affordable 3-bedroom townhomes for income-eligible purchasers. The council approved the development proposal last August, and 4 of the townhomes will be sold to households earning less than 80% of the area median income. 4 will be sold to households earning less than 120%. CEPA is also leveraging funds to obtain Illinois Housing Development Authority loans to support the project, and leveraging funds to begin construction later this year. It should be complete by 2025. CEPA also provides income verification support to the management company of the Sunset Woods condominiums, which have age and income restricted units that were built by the City of Highland Park. CEPA assists the city through the development and ongoing maintenance of a waiting list for inclusionary affordable units within Highland Park. And in this capacity, CEPA provides applications, verifies income eligibility of applicants, matches eligible tenants with available units at the appropriate income level, and assists developers in identifying income-eligible purchasers for owner-occupied inclusionary units. There's a lot of terminology in here, and there's a lot more information on the CEPA website as well as on the city website about the differences between these types of units. CEPA maintains relationships with the tenants and property owners to provide administrative support and assist in ensuring that inclusionary units are occupied by income-eligible households as required. CEPA is currently recruiting new members for its board of directors, and more information, as I said, can be found on the website, which is CPAHOUSING, so it's cepahousing.org. with one H. So I'm proud to serve on that board. I'm also liaison, as the mayor said, to the Sustainability Advisory Group. The group is chaired currently by Jay Futterman and consists of 9 members and 2 student representatives. Last week, the staff liaison transitioned from Assistant City Manager Jason, thank you for doing a great job as liaison, to Katie Flesher, the city's new Sustainability Specialist. The Sustainability Specialist position is new as of this year and will provide support across all departments on sustainability, enabling the city to reach our ambitious greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets and other environmental goals outlined in the sustainability plan. In 2023, SAG updated the sustainability plan. A key objective in 2024 is to develop pathways for achieving the long-term greenhouse gas emissions reduction goals of 45% by 2030 and becoming a net zero carbon emitter as a community by 2035. In order to assist in accomplishing the goals laid out in the sustainability plan, SAG members participate in working groups focused on residential and commercial methane gas reduction, green business practices, and stormwater management. The group is also working to organize a meeting of environmental and sustainability commissioners from neighboring communities to network and develop actionable regional sustainability objectives. Sustainability advisors are actively assisting and educating residents about the city's environmental priorities by providing information that is shared across the city's communication modalities, including Sustainability Sunday on the city's Facebook page. Be sure to check out the latest post from SAG member Michael Clay about solar energy, and I think that there's a few posts since then, but that's one of the recent ones. Advisors have volunteered at city events, most notably at Arbor Day, assisting with curbside compost and electric vehicle education. There will also be a sustainability speaker series to educate residents and businesses about environmental topics and steps that they can take to reduce environmental impact. Some issues covered may include tax credits and rebates available from the state and federal governments for energy improvements, efficient technologies for home heating, cooling, and water heating. The series will focus first on the priority reduction of methane gas, one of the highest greenhouse gas emission sources in Highland Park. And I believe the first program is planned for the end of June at the library, possibly. June 25th at the library, on hopefully heat pumps. So that'll be a good program. SAG also provides input on nominees for the Highland Park Environmental Award, actively participates in the solar home tour, partners on compost giveaways, implemented yard sign recycling, and explores opportunities to reduce our impact on the environment. There's a sustainability page on the city website that has more information.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Stone. I'd now like to ask City Manager Newkirk to provide the staff report.
Thank you, Mayor, council members. We have a number of items to report under the staff report, so I thought I would stand here just to go through everything more efficiently. First, wanted to provide an update on the Albion development and specifically the sound mitigation, which we heard about at the last city council meeting as well as previous meetings as well. At the last meeting, 2 of our residents, Peter and Jody Mordini, appeared before the city council expressing concern pertaining to the noise that they reported is emitting from the Albion development at 1850 Green Bay Road. We've been working very closely with the developers, the Albion team as part of their development and in regular communication with the Mordinis as well as it pertains to their concerns and specifically the noise. We will continue to stay in communication with them. We did provide them information earlier today that we'd be providing a follow-up report this evening. We have a meeting scheduled with them next week as well. We met, well, let me take one step back. So as indicated to the city council as well as to the Mordinis, the Albion team has conducted a number of different measures to address the concerns with the noise that were reported by the Mordinis since the onset of the concerns. And listed on this slide are a number of different measures and actions that have taken place. One thing that was stated at the last city council meeting, which is very important, is that as a city, it is not our job to identify what actions that a developer applicant needs to undertake. It's our job to review solutions that they develop and to work to identify if they meet our code regulations. And so as it pertains to the developer, they had installed a 2-foot berm along the north property line to help address the noise that was being emitted from the building. They constructed a fence at the garage intake, the air intake, and then they hired an acoustical engineer to conduct an overall evaluation of the building noise, as well as develop a number of different recommendations, again, to abate some of the noise and concerns that were identified. Identified on the screen are a number of bullet points that have been conducted in recent years. They installed, planted 18 10-foot arborvitaes, installed a sound mat on the fence along the north property line, and then they had custom designed louvers that they installed in increments at different floors. So they started with the first few floors, identified if that provided any relief with the sound. When it was reported by the Mordinis that it did not, they had custom-made louvers for the balance of the window units on the north side of the building. So as it stands today, all 5 floors, all 43 units on the north side of the building have the custom louvers on that property. We had a meeting this morning which included Mayor Rotering, Councilmember Bloomberg, Community Development Director Fontaine, and I met with the Albion staff and the Albion team and their representatives, and we discussed the efforts that have been conducted to date as well as next steps. As a result of the concerns that were identified, they did hire immediately a sound engineer. My computer just fell asleep on me here. They hired a design engineer, a sound engineer to conduct a sound study. As reported at the last meeting, initially when we talked, they were going to wait to do this sound test until the weather temperatures increased. But as a result of the concerns by the Mordinis and specifically indicating that the noise was prevalent during this mild temperature, they conducted an immediate test. And based on the preliminary report from that sound engineer, they had shared the following. First, the sound test was conducted when the temperature was 70 degrees outside. And again, these are the preliminary results. The ambient noise was identified at 55 decibels. The dBA scale that is used is based on sound intensity as well as how the human ear responds. So 55 decibels, meaning that if there was no building, then the sound at the property line would still be 55 dBA. So 55 in that range is general day-to-day sound conversations, just, general living. They measured at the corner by the health center, and that noise measured at 60 dBA. Some fans were noted that they were on, but they could not differentiate between the ambient noise as well as from the ambient noise from the general area as well as those from the units. So that report is going to be provided to us once it's in final form. We'll certainly provide that to Mordinis as well upon request, and it will become a public record. But that's the preliminary results that were shared today. In terms of next steps, the city is going to be having our sound engineer conduct another test. That would be an additional test that we too have conducted, and that will take place when the temperatures increase. Any questions before I move on from this?
Any questions? No? Okay.
Okay. And then wanted to provide a number of different updates about construction that's taking place specifically in the downtown district. So individuals that are watching, if they scan this QR code on the screen here, it'll take you to the story map on the city's website, which provides updates on all the capital improvement projects that are underway as well as planned this year in the downtown district. We have a total of about $34 million planned in infrastructure investment this year, which is part of the city's top priorities. In addition to economic development, we have a number of specific projects in the downtown district or central business district. We are providing regular communication to businesses as well as residents in that area as we progress through construction. So we've got an email contact list where communication is being issued. We're also issuing communication via the city's general e-news. And then that image that you see on the screen there is something that we are promoting, is to encourage not only Highland Parkers, but people throughout the area to support these great businesses, particularly during construction. So we started off the spring season with the 2nd Street resurfacing project at 1865 2nd Street, just south of Michaels. And this project, as of May 17th, is substantially complete. So we have some punch list items that the contractor is undertaking, and then the installation of the electrical controller box, which will be at the southeast part of the property. That'll serve not only this parking lot, but that immediate area as well. Part of the work this year includes resurfacing of those 8 streets that you see listed there on the screen in the downtown district. The City Council approved the contract for this work to take place in the evening. As we evaluated the timing of the project, the impact on businesses, how to really be most efficient and effective, it was felt that the overnight work hours would be most recommended. And so we have contractors working starting at 9 p.m. and continuing until 6 a.m. Monday evening through Saturday morning. And so work is progressing in this area. We are currently in phase 1 of this project, which is expected to be complete by June 28th. And so as people go around downtown, they see that the concrete curb and apron repair work is underway. The corners where all this is taking place is as part of disability access improvements, which is a critical component of this project. And as the concrete is poured in these areas, the brick is going to be restored and complete again throughout the entire downtown district. Installation of signal posts as well as additional signal-related infrastructure will be part of phase 2. So phase 2 is going to begin estimated around July 8th. So we'll complete the signal installation, which again will have improved ADA enhancements. And then we will begin grinding down the existing asphalt and resurfacing the streets. So this work will be done in phases. And so the plan is to mill a certain area, and that'll take about 2 nights of work, and then the paving will immediately follow. So again, it'll be done in phases throughout the district for maximum efficiency and just to minimize the impact on the businesses and residents in that area. And then moving along, there's a number of different improvements that are planned as part of a 2nd Street improvement project. And so listed on the top of this slide are the variety of different improvements that are planned. We looked at, we're planning to expand the sidewalk on the east side, looking at bump outs where we'll provide for an opportunity for outdoor dining for the businesses that are there. For the non-restaurants, even the retail businesses had also expressed an interest in improved pedestrian access as well as an opportunity for outdoor seating as well along this corridor. There's a number of different ADA enhancements that are planned, new asphalt pavement, new LED lighting, pedestrian lighting as well, and then storm sewer upgrades along this corridor. We did secure an additional parking lot at 1865 2nd Street, which is just, oh yeah, I'm sorry. But we did secure additional parking on the north side of 2nd Street, so that is available for customers in that district. We are also encouraging individuals to use the Renaissance parking garage for customer parking, as well as if people visit the city's website, which is listed on the screen there, you'll see a parking map of just a variety of different areas to park in the downtown district. And then you can see the improvements that are planned this week, as well as for the upcoming 2 weeks as well. And again, all this information is on our website. We'll be providing regular email updates. So this project is going to continue through August. And again, we are really working diligently with the contractor, with our team, in communication with residents and businesses just to make sure, one, people are informed, and two, to be as efficient as possible. This is a photo that was taken most recently, which just shows that although this area is under construction, we are working diligently to make sure that it's still accessible for all the businesses and the properties in that area, and there's clear path lines. And again, just provide the QR code, which takes you to our website, where you can get information not only about this construction project, but everything happening throughout the community. Just want to provide a couple of updates as we approach the Independence Day celebration. So as previously reported, we have a number of different plans for July 4th to reflect the remembrance that will take place at 10 a.m. in the morning, and then continuing with familiar family and community traditions. So the remembrance is going to be held at 10 a.m. We are asking individuals to register for that event, just so we have an idea of how many people are anticipated to attend due to occupancy limits. And so if you go to the city's website, you can register friends and family to attend the remembrance at 10 a.m. We will continue to 1 o'clock, where the traditional parade will take place under the famed Sweet Home Highland Park. And so we have a new route, which is very similar to the traditional route. We are starting near City Hall area, and then continuing up Laurel to Green Bay, and then down to Sunset. I know, but generally people know City Hall. And then we are coordinating with the Park District, and we'll have best in show categories. And so we have about 35 units that are registered right now for the parade. If individuals are still interested in being part of it, we encourage you to contact us this week, as we are finalizing plans for our parade at 1 o'clock. And then Park District of Highland Park is coordinating Fourth Fest, which will begin at 1:30. And that'll continue until 4:30 at Sunset Woods Park, and they are planning a number of different games, food trucks, musics, and other parts as part of that celebration. And then the drone show is going to take place later in the fall, and so we are doing that in concert with one of the special events that we have planned at the lot in downtown Highland Park. So more information will be provided to the community as that date approaches. And then just lastly, there are 16 items on the omnibus agenda for your consideration. There's detailed staff reports for each one. We're happy to entertain any questions you may have.
Great, thank you. I have a couple of questions for you regarding the Central Business District
Yes.
capital improvement project. And so I don't know if you could go back a few slides to the map. So we heard over the weekend from somebody who lives at Central and Linden, which is past where there are businesses, but strictly residential, that there was concrete cutting going on in the middle of the night with bright lights. And I understand why we're trying to do stuff at night, but I think it's gone too far into the residential area, and wanted to know what's being done to make sure that that doesn't happen. There's frustration, of course, from people who live in the apartments on Central above businesses, and I also understand their frustration and concern. But in terms of the all residential portion, why are we doing stuff at 2 o'clock in the morning with bright lights outside of basically homes with concrete cutting? That was one question I had. And if you need to get back to me, all good.
Yeah, well, do you want me to answer that question
Sure.
first? Okay. Certainly, we can take a look at it. This is one contract, and so we don't really have it broken down where this part is going to be done during this time frame and this part is going to be done during this time frame. Because we have the contractor that is scheduled to work during the what is construction hours, and again, do specific work as outlined according to the construction timeline. So if we need to shift from that, we can certainly talk to them and take a look at it. It would not be consistent with the contract that was approved, though.
I understand. I just got to tell you, the pictures that were sent to me, I mean, clear as day in the middle of the night in front of a home with a guy cutting concrete. I was like, whoa, have we lost? I mean, I understand the intention behind trying not to disrupt business, but I think we're also here to serve our residents, and that really seemed like a big swing and a miss to me. The other question I have is, again, and I understand this is temporary, but everybody's trying to go about their lives. I've come across, in particular, elderly people who just are mobility challenged on the best of circumstances, just trapped, like walking and then boom, there's a hole and they can't get around it, they can't get into the street. Is there any way we can start laying down some sort of like plywood or something to cover these holes to just make it a little bit easier for people just generally to get around our downtown? Because I'm concerned that people are going to get hurt. I understand, especially if you have mobility and vision issues, you're really just sort of trapped there. And I know I've heard from others who have also come upon our more senior citizens who just went to get their hair done and ended up trapped on the sidewalk, unable to continue on their way. And so is there any way that we can help with those sort of, I mean, it's bombed out at this point,
Right.
so.
So we've talked to the contractor, and so one, we're making sure that the signage is clear, and so where there are areas that are just closed off because they are not safe to trespass because the workers or the action that's taking place, we want to make sure that people don't traverse an area which is truly not safe to do so.
And I've seen, I haven't seen any of that, so has that
Well, it says
changed?
like sidewalk closed signs, there's.
But I haven't seen
I
that.
haven't seen that either.
So there are no sidewalk closed signs anywhere? It's just like shredded sidewalks with giant holes? So if we could deal with that ASAP, because.
Absolutely, yes, we can definitely take a look at that. We talked as a team with the contractor as well about doing some type of additional temporary placement to help make the area more accessible. The challenge that we have there, I'll explain the challenge and I'll tell you what we are doing. The challenge that we have is if we truly want to make it accessible, it would require custom fitting pieces into all the areas that are now depressed, because what you don't want to do is just put a piece of plywood or sheet metal there and encourage people to say, now this is now safe to walk over, because now you are creating additional trip hazards and other areas. We're also trying to
I'm sorry,
get through.
we're not having public comment right now. Thank you.
We're also trying to get through this construction truly as efficiently as possible and get it done. So if we have to now create custom areas in each of these areas where it's working, we are making the construction timeline that much longer. We've talked to the contractor about filling in those areas when they're not working. So if you can see right here, although, and my mom is handicapped as well, so I wholeheartedly understand, walking with her and trying to navigate different places. But like, this is the type of image that we're trying to do. Although this is a gravel area, we're trying to fill in those areas and at least make it where people can, go through a walker or a wheelchair or just walk slowly through these areas.
Okay, I think there's something somewhere in between. And again, there are images in my head of literally old ladies standing on the sidewalk, unable to progress because of holes all around them. I mean, they must get out of their cars, step out, and then just be like, where do I go? So I think somehow we need to improve the signage. And I recognize this is a temporary issue, but it's really, really bad out there. So Yumi also has said that she would like to add something. Go ahead, Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'm sorry for a slight delay. There's a slight delay in the video and also in my voice. And again, I'm sorry that I don't want to get anyone sick, so I'm staying at home for this meeting. I would like to point out what I've noticed walking 2nd Street for several days in a row, that the gravel path that you show in that photograph between Central and Elm is difficult, if not impossible, for the elderly. Anyone with a wheelchair or a walker has great difficulty navigating that path. And I'm concerned that we have a better solution.
Thank you. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I spoke with the city manager earlier today about this, and between this project and the ADA project at all the intersections being torn up, it's very difficult to walk around. And I understand it's a short duration inconvenience, but I do hope we can figure out a way to do something to make it a little bit more bearable in the meantime.
Or better signage that just says, just don't get out of your car and walk around here because you're going to get stuck. So if there's some way that we
Mayor,
can.
just
Councilmember
one
Ross?
more thing.
Yep.
I just want to say that gravel path is, as level as it appears in the photograph, is actually hilly.
Right. Agreed. So,
Anything else?
and I think that's it on this issue. Thank you.
It's going to look great once it's done.
Yeah, okay. The next item is business from the public. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the council on a topic that's within the council's purview and jurisdiction, but is not listed in another location on the agenda. If you'd like to speak about a matter that's listed on the agenda, we ask that you wait until that agenda item is called, and we'll give you an opportunity to speak then. If your matter is on the omnibus consent agenda, please let us know if you'd like us to pull that matter from the consolidated list so that you can speak about it. Please be aware that business from the public is not intended to be a forum for open dialogue or engagement with members of the City Council. Rather, it's intended as an opportunity to make comments to the City Council. Please don't expect a response this evening. If appropriate, we may direct the city manager or other city staff to respond to questions or issues raised at a later date. All comments should be directed to the City Council. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. We request that the public not applaud or make other comments after any speaker. We ask that everyone be respectful, civil, and non-repetitive.
Thank you. My name is Carl Lambrecht. You all know that I live in Highland Park for about over 50 years. Many years ago, around the time of Karl Marx, the word sodomy was replaced with homosexual, to tone down the sodomy word. About 145 years ago in Uganda, the king executed 22 boys. There was a program just last week where 2 to 3 million people in that country and surrounding areas came in homage and respect for these boys because of the homosexual lifestyle of this king. The hidden Hitler, which I brought before, was not talking just about Hitler. Most of the leadership of Hitler were homosexual. And they created the Hitler Youth, simply that some of them could be used for these guys to play with. 1969, there was an event in New York City. You mentioned it before. But what happened after that puzzled people in some parts of the United States very strongly, because suddenly people were dying from AIDS, which was not necessary at all. If they simply got some help by people who are able to help people from same-sex attraction. The same thing happened in Germany, that a Jew who was helping people with same-sex attraction. And that was the first group that Hitler had banned the books. I think the flag that you have playing outside could be replaced with the Israeli flag, much more appropriate for our time and situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers who wish to be heard this evening?
My name is Mike Gower. I live at 3306 University Avenue. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request with the city, asking for information on the most recent sidewalk to be installed in a residential neighborhood years after the street existed. And I didn't get an answer. I said it again. I did get an answer, and they said, we'll send it to the engineer. So the engineer came back and said, Clavey Road. Okay, Clavey Road, that doesn't seem like a residential area to me, but I drove over there. And there was work being done on the sidewalk. The sidewalk, however, was an existing sidewalk, and they were widening it along a chain link fence that had open space on the other side. Matter of fact, there was open space on both sides. It looked to be a golf course. So I drove on down Clavey Road, and there's the North Shore Water Reclamation District and a school, but it's certainly not a residential neighborhood. So I sent all this information again with one more request, asking for information on the most recent sidewalk installed in the city of Highland Park years after the street existed. University Avenue, from what I understand, has been in existence since the 1920s. That makes it 100 years. To install this sidewalk now tells me that this has never been done before. This is the first time in the history of City Highland Park that, according to its own records, that a sidewalk will be installed years after the street existed. If you vote to destroy our neighborhood ambiance, you will live in infamy. Infamy that will rival that of Mr. T. Mr. T. TV actor, movie star, protagonist of the Great Lake Forest Chainsaw Massacre. But I gotta say, Mr. T, he only cut down trees on his own property. If you vote to put this sidewalk in, you're gonna cut down trees on lots of other people's property for a mile. A mile. The ignominy that you could develop could surpass that of Mr. T. What newspaper editor could possibly refuse a delicious headline like Highland Park City Council, under the leadership of Mayor Nancy Roddering, votes to cut down 100 trees to reduce CO2 emissions? Huh?
While you're here, I do want to, no, we're not applauding. So while you're here, I do want to share with you that we put in new sidewalks on Green Bay Road and on Sheridan Road.
They're not residential neighborhoods.
Yeah, they're totally in front of houses. They are absolutely residential
I
neighborhoods.
rode over to Sheridan Avenue. You said you were going to put sidewalks in to Rosewood Beach. There's no sidewalks.
No, that's coming. That's a project that's coming. But there are sidewalks on the south side of Sheridan Road, eastbound from the entrance to Ravinia Festival, that were recently placed there. There were sidewalks placed down by South Deer Park on Sheridan Road, and there were sidewalks on Green Bay Road connecting between houses where there were gaps. And that was within the last 10 years. I don't know who responded to your email, but I can tell you factually that that has happened.
Berkeley also.
And Berkeley? Okay, yeah, in Berkeley. So I want to clarify the record as far as your context for your comment. I understand that you don't want the sidewalk, and I understand that you are wanting to preserve trees, and we all share the desire to preserve trees. But I did want you to know factually that within the context of your question, those have occurred within the last 10 years.
Well, I don't think the Freedom of Information people pay any attention. I mean, I've had to file it 3 times. If I'd have had that information, I would have been able to go and look and refute what you're saying or agree with it. But I don't know whether it's true or not. I
Okay.
mean, you're saying it, so I'll take it
I hope
as
you'll
being
agree
true.
with it, because it is true, but I understand you are welcome to your opinion, so thank
Well,
you.
you know, there's been a lot of misconceptions here, you know, as to what, where a sidewalk's being installed, like Clavey Road. I mean, that was ridiculous. That was the answer I got back.
Okay, well, we'll be sure to let our internal team know that there was frustration with their response. Thank you. Any other? I understand what your point is as well. Thank you. Any other members of the public wishing to be heard?
Levi Kane. O noble citizens of Highland Park, lend me thine ears and hearken to this grievous tale of woe and folly. Behold, we stand at the precipice with but 2 contenders vying to fill the esteemed seat of Sir Geoffrey Hubler. One, a learned lawyer, the other, a savvy merchant. Clearly, the latter favored by fate's fickle hand. Easy it is to define their choice, is it not? Heaven forbid we should find on the councils a soul who truly grasped the ways of commerce, save Andres and Annette, who clearly seem enlightened. Lo, I am wearied by the prattle of these fools who bicker and babble over the trifles of forcing this Albion knave to lift his accursed air units to the heavens. Verily, it requires no great intellect to discern that ye, with your pristine grades and delicate hands, have never wielded a hammer in your lives. The labyrinthine bureaucracy that ensnares you is not but a plague upon this land. From the Mordini kin, a missive came, hailing my courage in decrying your deceits, granting them the fortitude to rise and speak. Why must it fall to one such as I to embolden them? It only reveals the depths of your madness. 4 years, 4 long and bitter years this family hath battled this vile developer. Canst thou fathom it? Blessed be the time you waste on political stratagems that serve none but yourselves. Truly, what a boon for the people, no? I drew a blank. But
We
Nancy.
still have a minute 20.
Ah, yes, thou Gita, who drawest a princely sum of $250,000 residing in the distant land of Arlington Heights. Thou canst not even perform thy duties. Small wonder thou carest not, for thou dwellest not among us. Laughable it is, we pay you $250,000 a year. Bravo indeed for everyone for your illustrious service, yes. Yay, confetti! Nancy, I beseech thee, remain there, lost in thy idle scribbles, as the voices of the people pour forth their grievances. Thy detachment from the world is not but astounding. Yet what astounds me further is thy peculiar delight in this miserable office. I see it in thine eyes, when thou dost wield thy flowery lawyer's tongue. I see it, and a tear wells within mine eye. I ask myself, why? Why does she compel us to this course? Why does she force our hand to remove her from the seat she cherishes so dearly? Nancy, continue on this course, and we shall be forced to strip the seat from thee. What then shall become of thee? What, pray tell, shall thy husband do with thee confined to the house all the livelong day? Ponder this, fair Nancy, as you dispose of my confetti. Until we meet again. Adieu.
Any other members of the public wishing to be heard or possibly entertain us? Okay, hearing none, we'll continue on with scheduled business. We have items 1 through 16 grouped together for omnibus consideration. Councilmember Brookman, don't leave. Thanks, Mayor. I know this happens in North Chicago every other week, too. You too, thank you. And before we even continue with the motion, I do want to note on number 2, which is the acceptance of the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended December 31, 2023. An excellent job, as always, by the Finance Department. Thank you. Please share that with the team. And also on number 3, which is a resolution authorizing a grant agreement with the Illinois Criminal Justice Information Authority for funding from the Emergency Federal Law Enforcement Assistance Program. Kudos to staff for finding those funds, as we have significant costs still resonating from the July 4th, 2022 event, and appreciate you doing that. I know Councilmember Ross, you wanted to say something about item 15?
Yes. Yes.
Is there any way to turn the volume up, or no?
May I, this isn't the moment, right?
Okay, go ahead.
I wanted to say about item 15, the First Amendment to the Physician Response Vehicle Program Participation Agreement. Kudos to Dr. Benjamin Feinsteimer, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly, for initiating it. It is wonderful that Highland Park Hospital is part of a network that this doctor serves, and that his proposed physician response vehicle not only works, he not only works alongside paramedics and trains them, but can convince people reluctant to go to the hospital for needed care to go. But he's also delivering public education, and I think it's wonderful.
Great. Thank you so much. Any other comments before I have a motion on items 1 through 16?
I just want a motion.
Go for it.
Yeah, I motion that we do the whole omnibus on one vote.
Sounds good. Thanks. Is there a second?
I second that.
Will the clerk please call, any further discussion from the public on items 1 through 16? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the vote?
Councilmember Bruckman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ross,
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia,
Aye.
Councilmember Stone,
I'm going to vote aye on everything except for number 13. I'll be voting no on 13.
Councilmember Bloomberg,
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye. That's 6 ayes, no nays on items 1 through 12, 14 through 16, and on item 13, 5 ayes and 1 nay. Thank you. Continuing on with our other business, item 17 is a referral of a height variation to the Zoning Board of Appeals for final disposition related to 2366 Egendale Road. Do we need a presentation? I think we probably need to have a bit of an understanding of what it is that we're, okay. Sounds good. Community Director Fontaine, is that going to be given by you?
Thank you, Mayor. So this item before you this evening is a request for referral of a height variation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Staff recommended consideration of the referral to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and per section 150-1103A4, the zoning code, the council may refer matters to the zoning board that is not otherwise authorized to consider. The city council in these cases is not asked to consider the actual variation request itself, but rather whether and how the request should be considered by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Under the Compier rule, the council has the following options for variation requests. 1, refer to the ZBA and direct the board to conduct a public hearing, and then send a report and a recommendation back to the city council for final decision. 2, refer to the zoning board, direct the board to conduct the public hearing, and make the final decision on the requested variance without sending it back to the city council for consideration. Or 3, the council may choose not to refer to the ZBA at all, effectively denying the variation request. The request is for 2366 Egendale Road, Highland Park, as shown there. The applicant is requesting a referral of this height variation to the Zoning Board of Appeals. And essentially what it is asking for is a variation from the maximum height of a principal structure in an R4 zoning district. R4 stands for residential. The applicant proposes to construct a new single-family residence at this location that will exceed the R4 maximum permitted height, essentially to allow 2 peaks that exceed the maximum height by about 1 foot, and to allow a roof access that is 5 feet higher than the maximum height allowed in the zoning district. So here are some depictions of what this is. So from the south view, you can see here in orange, that's essentially the height above the 32 maximum foot height in this district. So this is facing Egendale. That's the area that we're talking about. And actually the red line right below that area does obscure the 2 peaks where they exceed about 1 foot on each of those 2 peaks there. It's the north view and then the west view, which is facing the backyard. So again, they're essentially 2 peaks, 1 for each of the, as you can see there, the peaks of the roof, and then the access to that, that roof area there. They'd like to have a roof deck. In this depiction, it's a site plan, so a plan view. You can see, okay, if you're looking from the top, what are the areas that would exceed the height requirements? So the long skinny ones are the peaks of those 2 of the roofs that they come to a point. And then that box is the access to that roof deck area. This shows you the topography of the parcel in question. It does have a varied topography from 660 on the lower right there to 654, and then in the back 652 and 653 and change. As you know, Mayor, and the council, that our code requires the average grade to be used from which you determine height in our community. And at times, that does essentially cause a situation where, due to large topographical differences in a property, the height variations are necessitated or requested. In this case, I would say in terms of this particular height variation, the peaks of the roof, that 1 foot peak is probably could be accounted for by the variations shown here in terms of the average grade versus what's out there. The access way to the roof, not all of that 5 feet would necessarily be caused by that. That's staff's opinion on this. In terms of staff comments, the planning division, the home is not locally landmarked. It has been to the existing home, I should say, is not locally landmarked and has been reviewed for a demolition request. And they did not impose a demolition delay on this property. Public Works Forestry Unit has the following comment. It's just basically building permit review as to what would be needed. And then I conclude with the recommendation and the Compier referral overview. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to take them. If you'd like me to leave that slide up, I can.
I think we have 3 questions, possibly 4, maybe 5, so we'll let you know which slide we're looking for. Councilmember Stone, then Councilmember Bloomberg, then Councilmember Tapia, and Councilmember Brockman. I don't know if you have questions or not, but we're happy to hear them if you do. Go ahead.
So my question is going back to the slide with the elevation, back one more, I think.
Okay. That's the site plan showing the areas of relief, and then
Yeah, that one.
that's facing the backyard, or would you like the front?
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
So from the bottom of the house to the top of the house, is that, regardless of the slope of the lot, is that more than 32 feet? The full, I couldn't read those numbers.
It's 32 feet, except for those little areas that are depicted in orange, which exceed that height.
So there's 2 separate issues here, if I'm understanding correctly. One is the slope of the lot, and the other is that the house itself, the mass of the house, is more than 32 feet total. Is that right? The orange part is,
The line, the top on the right there, that top circle there is essentially the 32 feet across. And so you can see where the house exceeds that.
So it's just that portion, though, in the
Above.
center. It's not the entire roof line.
Correct.
The home needs 5 feet more.
Correct. So that 5-foot area, or the 37 feet, would be needed in that orange area as depicted there.
so if those 2 peaks were a foot less, the house itself would be within the 32 feet, and that orange box is a structure to access a roof deck?
Correct.
So I don't know if you want further comments, or if you want to go through questions first.
Let's have everyone have a chance, and
Okay.
then, thank you. Councilmember Bloomberg.
I had more of something in line with comments, so perhaps I'll wait.
Okay, Councilmember Tapia?
Yeah, actually, my questions are more process-wise.
Okay.
So why would this come to us first to decide whether we're going to refer this to the ZBA or us decide on our own? Why wouldn't this go to the ZBA first, as most requests for variances go?
Yeah, that's a great question. I can.
Let me take that.
Corporation Council.
It's a legal issue. It's not a planning issue, and it's an unusual issue. Only Highland Park has this. Compier actually was one of my predecessors. He came up with a creative approach that you can either keep or abandon. There are only certain limited variations that are authorized in the Highland Park Code. Maybe 10, 14. Similarly, in other municipalities, there are approximately the same number of very limited variations. Variations are not considered to be granted regularly. There has to be a hardship. It's to change the code as opposed to a special use where you provide an exception to the code. If one wants to take advantage of and request one of the 14 variations, then indeed the process is to go to the zoning board and seek the variation, prove your case at a public hearing before the zoning board. But that's only with the 14 authorized variations. When an individual wants to vary some provision of the code that is not one of those 14 variations, in most towns other than Highland Park, the answer would be, sorry, you're out of luck. You cannot change it. You may want to seek an amendment to the zoning code to change the code, but otherwise, sorry, you're out of luck. There is no process. Highland Park created this unique process that allows people, residents, owners of property, to seek variations where no authorized variation exists. And it does that by having the city council, the corporate authorities, be the gatekeeper and say, yes, we want to allow you to get a variation that is not otherwise authorized, or at least go through the process where it's not otherwise authorized or not. And that's, so you're essentially the gatekeeper for an unusual process. I hope that helps. Okay.
I like this exception clause, if you will, because you can't anticipate all the possible exceptions. So I think that's an imaginative way to go. I like that it comes to us for those obvious reasons. I like the recommendation that it go to the ZBA, but I would make the case that we should just let the CBA then decide. If we think
Final disposition at the ZBA.
exactly, because then we create another loop back, and I think it disrespects the CBA's careful consideration. We really like our CBA commissioners, and they do a great job, and they're going to do a much more careful job of deciding what the pros and cons are than we could in City Council, especially with other agenda items that we have. So we say, yes, this seems, if we agree, right, to say, the majority says, yeah, it seems like a worthwhile thing to look at. Let's give it to the experts and the people delegated to look at these exceptions, and whatever they decide is what goes.
Right, so that's one of the three choices that we will be taking action on. So I hear where you are landing, which is fine. Thank you. I think Councilmember Ross and then back to
Yes.
Councilmember Stone. And if you have anything, let me know. Councilmember Ross, that's you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. My question is, what is the tallest home height on Eganndale? Have other homes got variations? Would this then become the tallest on the street? And the other question I have is, the house in the elevations is shown at 2 stories, and as Council Member Stone pointed out, but for a slight adjustment, or I shouldn't call it adjustment, but just a small increment, the house would meet the restriction, and I don't see the hardship. The applicant bought the property knowing the conditions, and anyway. So those are my questions. What would this become a precedent on Eganndale?
So have you done a survey, Joel, of the heights? No.
No,
Okay.
we have not. The applicant has not, no.
And so it sounds like Councilmember Ross is expressing concern that by virtue of providing this variance, we then create a precedent on Eganndale of 37-foot tall homes. Is that a correct summary, Councilmember Ross?
That is correct. I assume it's either a staircase or an elevator that's creating a 3rd story there. And I don't see the hardship to have a roof deck, to create a variance, but that's just one opinion.
And so my understanding from what you're saying is by virtue of there being no hardship, you choose choice 3, which is no referral, just effectively denying the variation?
I think at this point, that's how I feel. I'm interested to hear what my fellow council members think.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Councilmember Stone, and then back to Councilmember Bloomberg?
Yes, thanks.
Just a
Okay.
quick follow-up question for Corporation Counsel. So you said that there's not a compare process in other communities. So if somebody wanted to build a 37-foot tall house and the limit was 32 feet, the answer would just be no.
The answer would be no, or the relief that they would seek was an amendment to the underlying provision in the zoning code.
Okay. So given the information that's been provided, I have reservations about this variation request. There's currently a 2-story home on the property that's within the allowable height. This seems to be more of a design issue than a hardship to me, and the additional height is for access to a roof deck, which, not a hardship. If we send it to the ZBA, I want to be clear that the referral in no way implies that the council has taken a position, but I'd rather save everyone the time and not make the referral, deny it here.
So you would like to send it to the ZBA for
No.
final? No. You don't want to do it?
I would like to save everyone the time and
You just want to
and
be
say
done?
no.
You're going with number
Yeah,
3?
I'm going with-
Okay.
no, yeah.
All right, thank you. Councilmember Bloomberg?
Thank you. So among the various options under the compare referral system, we have an option to say no and just leave things as they are, do what Councilmember Tapia suggests, and refer it for final action, or we can refer it to the ZBA to act as an advisory group to us. We would then have an opportunity to review their recommendation, and we would take final action.
That is correct.
And the value of using the ZBA is that they address requests for variances. That's in line with what they regularly do, even though they do not regularly review a request for a height variance, since they have no authority generally to do that. I'm confident that the ZBA is an apt body to do that. They routinely are familiar with issues of what does or does not constitute a hardship, and to conduct a full and complete hearing that would require notice, input from neighbors in the manner of a typical hearing that came to them directly and not as a compare referral. If that is what we are going to do, and I don't have a strong feeling either way about it, I echo what Councilmember Stone said, which is that our referral of this to the ZBA, at least in my mind, as a policy, we have not weighed in on approval or disapproval of whatever action they take, that they should take this referral in a neutral manner and make a decision without saying, oh, the council sent it to us for approval, or, oh, the council sent it to us for disapproval. There are some members of the council who have expressed some disapproval of this. I feel somewhat neutral about it. Others may feel differently as well. But the purpose of a compare referral is not for the council to tell the ZBA what to do, in my mind.
Thank you. Councilmember Brookman, any thoughts?
I would agree with Councilmember Tapias and Bloomberg, as well as Stout, that we should refer it to ZBA since they are the experts, and then they would make the decision.
Have the final disposition be at
yes.
the zoning board. I
Yes,
agree. Any comments from the public?
Mayor, members of the council, and welcome Councilwoman Bruckman to the City Council. My name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicant. And let me just cut to the chase and just respond to Council Member Stone's question. The issue with this property is the slope, and how the fact that the property slopes towards the ravine corrupts the average height. So that's how you calculate height on this property. So it has been, I mean, I've worked on 2 or 3 other cases that have come before the council, which were referred to the zoning board when there's been a slope towards the ravine. It was contemplated when the zoning ordinance was amended to measure height as the 4 corners of the building envelope, that there would be situations where, because of the slope, that there may be issues with the height. In this situation, to correct what Joel had mentioned, the height, if you looked at the front door to the top of the peak, let's ignore the staircase to get to the roof deck, but the height from the front door to the top of the peak is 31 feet.
From the front door or
Yes,
from the bottom of the structure?
No, bottom of the structure to the peak. But because the way you measure grade, all you can build on this property is roughly a little less than a 30-foot house. So what the applicant here is looking to build, with regard to the design, is looking to build a 32-foot house. And you have to remember, there's an 8-foot difference between the building envelope, from the front of the building envelope to the back of the building envelope. In addition to that 8 feet, if you go from the street to the backward to the steep zone, that's actually 11 feet. So even though, and obviously this is what we're trying to do, is we're trying to manage bulk. The fact that the property slopes back, slopes towards the ravine, there'll be an impression that the house is actually shorter than it actually is. So what we're asking for tonight is a referral to the zoning board so they can consider the hardships. Like, they have a full-blown hearing. And so this is not a hearing tonight. We're not noticed. We don't have our architect here. We're not prepared to go forward and have a hearing and discuss all of the standards, because it's not just the hardship standards. There's other standards that we have the obligation to prove in order to obtain a variance. So we're asking for the ability to have that hearing, number one. And number two, to give us an opportunity to present our case. I'm not presenting the case tonight. I'm just explaining why we're doing it this way. Lastly, I know that, we had really questioned, and I questioned, the need for the stair structure and the roof deck. And I talked to my client. I got a call earlier today indicating that there may be an issue with that staircase. We're willing to take a look at that again and see if we can come up with some other solution that would be require less of a variance from the height. And we're prepared to present that to the... Okay, that's okay, I'm done. Usually it's a hook I get, not that. So we're prepared to submit revised plans to try to reduce that and let the zoning board consider it at that time.
Okay. Councilmember Bloomberg.
Yeah, I appreciate your saying that you're not presenting evidence, and that's exactly why I don't want to hear this. We're not, if we're going to have a full hearing on this, we need a lot more information to make a decision. I would rather let the ZBA do that. They do that routinely. It's not that we're not capable, but in the context of an entire city council meeting, I would just as soon allow somebody, a group of people who routinely hear these matters, to address them. But I certainly appreciate the comments that have been made to the contrary.
Thanks. Councilmember Tapia and then Councilmember Ross.
And I want to echo Councilmember Bloomberg's statement that he was speaking for himself, but I'll add my voice that in this referral, I personally would be in a neutral position too. So I'm not weighing one way or another, don't have enough data, I don't think it's our place, and I like it falling on the ZBA to use their expertise.
Thanks. Councilmember Ross?
Thank you, Mayor. I hear my fellow council members. I was curious to hear what they had to say, and I'm comfortable referring it to the ZBA. I have a question for Corporation Counsel, which is how, I'm curious about how the ZBA remains neutral when they can have watched this meeting. I'm aware that they must remain neutral as possible.
Well, I would hope that the ZBA would understand, and I think that they do, that if you use my gatekeeper analogy, all that the city council is doing is authorizing the process where no process exists. The fact that the city council is enabling a property owner to go through the process with the understanding that that property owner must still demonstrate compliance with all of the requirements for a variation, which are tough, necessarily tough in our zoning code, the ZBA will make its decision just as it would with any other matter that came to it, regardless of whether it came to it through the code provision or through the city council referral.
So with that, I'm seeking a motion.
Thank you.
Councilmember Ross, did you have more to say?
No, I'm just thanking Corporation Council.
Okay, so I'm seeking a motion to refer item 17 to the ZBA and direct the board to conduct a public hearing and make the final decision on the requested variance without sending it back to us, the city council.
So moved.
Second.
Any further comments or conversation? Hearing none, will the clerk call the vote, please?
Councilmember Bruckman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ross,
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays, and so off to the ZBA with you on number 17. Thank you so much. Item 18, an ordinance amending the City of Highland Park zoning ordinance of 1997 as amended regarding animal clinics and domestic pet daycare uses.
Do we need a presentation on this one?
Do we need a presentation, or do people have enough information to talk about it and to figure out where they want to go?
I have enough information.
Do you have enough information?
Yes, do I.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does somebody want to make a motion, or Councilmember Stone?
Yeah, I would I would make a motion to go ahead and approve this, but I would like to follow up on the staff recommendation that we consider our requirements pertaining to kennels. That was in the staff report. I'd like to prohibit kennels entirely in all residential districts and make them a conditional use in other zoning districts. We received a letter from a resident about this, and I agree, I would not want a dog kennel next to my house.
Have we done a survey? Do we know? I mean, my understanding is that there are kennels existing in residential areas right now. They may not be registered with the city, but I think before we just sort of create a blanket prohibition, we might want to know the current status.
We have one that we're aware of.
We have
And
one
it
that
actually
we're-
came to a public hearing and was voted by council. And I apologize if I'm forgetting the woman's name
It was
who
on Old
ran it.
Elm or some.
Yeah,
right
and
north.
it had been there for years, newspaper clipping, I mean, there was lots of evidence, and it was approved, but there was a condition of approval in that ordinance that said that it's tied to her specifically, so it would end at that time, yes. I think that was to recognize the longevity that use has had as a pre-existing use there, and then end it with that particular operator. However, the code as it exists does allow them by a conditional use permit, which is an SUP, a conditional use. So if council directs, staff will certainly follow up and come back with an amendment that would go for a formal public hearing at the Plan Commission, then back to you for final action.
And just to clarify, if somebody is caring for more than 4 dogs in their home, that's construed as a kennel, right?
Yeah.
Under our
That would be
code.
considered
Okay, I
Right
know.
now, that was clarified in this particular amendment package because there was a desire not to allow pet daycare in residential districts. And so in doing that, we needed to make sure that we don't run afoul or have a lack of clarity on that particular issue because of the way kennel is defined and such. Yes.
Where do dog walkers fall into this question?
Walking the dogs, that's, you can pick up dogs and walk them. That doesn't, it's
So if you're
at
in a
your home
residential
taking
neighborhood,
in animals
on the
to
move
walk.
with 5 dogs are okay,
Yeah,
but if the
that's-
dogs are sitting in your
No,
home?
it's not associated with a particular property, I would say, and so you're taking the animals out for a walk in the public ways. I don't think that falls into this.
not a
It's
land
if you
use.
have a number of
It's not
people.
a land use.
Right, it's not a land use of a
form
private parcel.
modality, it's a it's a transit
Right,
of dogs.
Yeah, so I wouldn't consider that a kennel. Now, if people drop their dogs off at someone's house and there's a whole mess of dogs, well, yeah, for the day, then that's going to be a dog or domestic pet daycare, yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Ross? Did you have something?
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't get to hear everything Joel said.
Okay.
But forgive me if I am saying something that he's already answered. I agree with Councilmember Stone about not allowing any kennel or domestic animal care business in residential neighborhoods R1 through R6. I don't see any value in having them next to other people's homes, and I'm not sure if there's a reason to allow it in any of the residential zones. They're more than the R1 through R6. There's R7. There's a whole bunch of other Rs, and you know, whether you live in an apartment building or a single family home, I'm not sure you want. And when I say apartment building, I'm not talking a huge one. I'm talking maybe a small one. I just don't see the value in having it in residential neighborhoods, either a kennel or a domestic animal care business, and I think we need to address the kennel.
Director?
Just to Councilmember Ross's question, kennels are currently not permitted in R7, RM1, and RM2 zoning districts.
They're
So
too
that and R1 through R6 is the entirety of our residential zoning districts are covered there.
Thank you. Councilmember Bloomberg?
Yes, if I may, I wanted to ask the applicant, I had some confusion as to which form we're approving. I want to make sure that that was one that you're
So
comfortable
we're
with.
the applicant.
We're the applicant.
The city of Highland
City
Park is
manager.
We are
is the
making a
applicant.
text amendment to our zoning. code.
Okay.
But there
I think
is, there is interestingly an interested party that.
Right, but I think there was a way to do this to avoid their having to go back through the.
Yes, yeah.
If you'd like to see some of that public comment, I can pull it up on
Well,
the
I saw the public comment. I want to make sure that what we're doing is reasonably economical and streamlined.
Yeah, I can pull up the chart. I do have some language that was in one of their comments that they provided as public comment, if you'd like to see that.
Okay.
So this is the use table. It shows that the Rs, all the residential districts, is not permitted in either case with regard to the animal clinics and hospitals or the domestic pet daycare. There were a couple of things in the public comments that were provided that you were referring to, Councilmember Bloomberg, and this was some language that they had through the public hearing process proposed, and I can let them speak to it if you'd like, or I could speak to it however you'd like to. Essentially what it does is this involves, I believe there's the current use downtown, which was recently permitted, has a conditional use permit. And so they would like to, and this Pets for Life is the use I'm talking about, or the organization, and they would like to introduce this as part of what they do there. So they have the Animal Clinic Hospital that's been given a conditional use permit. And so here there are some ways to craft text amendments such that that use would essentially, by the fact that it already has a conditional use permit, would still be allowed to do this without going back for an additional conditional use permit because of the peculiarities of the way that use is it's being proposed, and that's in the basement of that building there.
And the language that we're proposing would incorporate that?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
The language that's in the draft ordinance does not.
Does not.
But if you're interested, this can be added to the
I am
language
interested.
with an amendment on the floor.
Would you accept that as an amendment?
Yeah.
Then I would second the motion.
Okay, we don't have a motion yet.
Oh, I thought there was a motion.
Was that a motion that I said to approve? And
No,
then
I
I
thought
also
we were-
I didn't
We're
understand it as a
still
motion
commenting.
yet, but.
We don't
okay.
have a motion on the
Okay.
table yet, so we can't
Then-
amend it.
I would move to approve with that language included.
I will
Okay.
second that.
So we still have two comments, Councilmember Tapia and Councilmember Ross, and Councilmember Brookman, if you have anything you'd like to add, we'd love to hear from you, but I think we don't have a motion on the table, so, right? Do we have a motion?
We do have a motion.
Now you have a motion.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Well, I'm struck by a comment you made, Mayor, that do we know if there's any, kenneling happening in some residential areas? I'm just a little wary of just passing this and without knowing who may be affected, and we just don't understand the circumstances. It's similar to the one that was conditionally approved in Elm Street, well, I don't know the circumstances fully on that, but the fact that it was kind of grandfathered in for this individual, somehow her circumstances may have been taken into account for whatever reason. I'm just worried about just being draconian on this without having a full picture of what the implications, unintended consequences may be.
Director Fontaine wants
Just
to jump in.
one thing, just a point of clarification. So the kennel matter is not before you.
Right.
There was a recommendation that we get direction on that. So there was some concern by the Plan and Design Commission, such concern that they said, we do not want, or we're not recommending as a commission, that this use be allowed even by a conditional use permit for the daycare, the domestic pet daycare, in residential districts. Staff's logic was, well, that mirrored what was allowed for kennels. They're like, what? Kennels are allowed like that? Oh, well, we have some concerns about that. That was beyond the scope of what the city manager charged us with doing in terms of staff to go forward. However, knowing that concern, we just bring that to you as what I would call a subsidiary recommendation that, hey, does the council really want kennels in residential districts? So that's where we're at. So by voting this tonight, you will not change anything with kennels. But what will be true is that kennels will still be allowed as a conditional use permit in residential districts, but domestic pet daycare will not.
And I think the suggestion is to have the commission consider kenneling at a later point so we don't lose track of this.
As a staff, from staff perspective, I would suggest we make them mirror. However, whichever way you'd like to make them mirror, whether they're both conditional or they're both not permitted, that was the logic we were using in the original recommendation. And so if the daycare is not going to be allowed, one might want to consider not allowing the kennels. That respectfully, that's just where staff's perspective was on this.
Understood. I'd rather have the commission weigh in on it.
Okay.
Okay.
Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is something I thought I remembered that the PDC discussed, but I could be wrong in my memory, which is, there is this new company, Pets for Life. We wish them much success, and it seems to be a beautiful facility. My question, based on what I thought I heard them talk about, was, is there any limitation on how many domestic animal, care companies you might have, say, in the central business, any of the business districts? Would you want 4 of them in a small stretch of a street? And I just wanted to put that out there, that I seem to recall CDC discussing that.
Director Fontaine.
If I may, Mayor. So as a general rule, we're not seeking to legislate through our zoning code to control competition of businesses. So the answer to that, Councilmember Ross, is landowners would be able to pursue this type of conditional use permit, or even if it's permitted by right, use. And if there were a number of them at some point, they would either all succeed or some would close due to competition. We actually refer to a time when the city actually had 3 cupcake stores in close, maybe 4, Councilmember Bloomberg is correcting me, but that resolved itself.
Thank you. That is what I remember. Their analogy was the cupcake.
Well, that really did happen, by the way. Yeah.
We were here.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Stone,
I got my answer.
you're
Thank
done.
you. Yeah.
Councilmember Bloomberg,
I'm good.
Councilmember Bruckman.
I'm good.
Okay. So Councilmember Tapia.
I just want to make sure we don't do something inadvertent here. Because I know there's a business, Pets for Life, that we're all enthusiastic about. And I know that if we pass this year, the proposed text amendment for number 1, then they would have to apply for conditional use. Is that what we're saying here?
No, what we're trying to do is avoid their having to go back and reapply. They currently have a conditional use.
Oh, for the
Yeah, they're in operation.
They'd be-
We're trying to
okay,
allow that
got it.
to
All right, all right.
remain.
Just one thing, to just clarify, they don't have it for the domestic daycare.
That's what I'm asking.
Domestic pet day, they do not. They have a conditional use for the animal clinic or hospital. That's currently what's running there. So that, for number one, would say that if you have one of those conditional use permits, then you do not need to go forward for a conditional use permit.
Right, okay.
They would still have to follow, this text of this, but you would not need to go back for a separate consideration in that case.
Got it.
If somebody could read the motion.
If I understand it, Mayor, it is the motion to approve the ordinance that was in the package with the addition of the red and blue language that's above.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
Red and blue, or just the number one or number two?
red?
Number one and
Number
number two.
one, amendment number one.
Number one, yes, okay.
Mayor, you cannot see
Oh.
in the video the
The
text.
tax.
Okay, so at the end of the text amendment, we would read unless part of an animal clinic or hospital for which a conditional use permit has been issued, would be the additional language as the amendment.
Number one.
Right, okay.
Madam Chair, there's a member of the audience that would like to speak.
Okay, hello, Hal.
Hal Frank is representing the client.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council, long time and new, welcome. Again, my name is Hal Frank. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Meltzer, Pertil, and Stell. I represent Pets for Life, which is in the Central Business District. As most of you will recall, because you were here when the conditional use permit was approved, that authorized their establishment of an animal clinic on Centrals. And they have been out, they've been open for about a year now, I think, a little over a year. It's been welcomed by the community. They invested over $1 million in this facility. I don't know if you've been there, it's beautiful. They have tremendous support from all their neighbors, including the one that they share a wall with. And they came in some time ago asking the Community Development Department if they could do pet daycare. And because they realized, and we talked about it, that the ordinance wasn't clear on it, which is, I think, I don't know if that started the process with Community Development Department, but I know that at that point, the representatives of the Community Development Department said, it's bigger than just you. This issue is bigger than just you. We're going to approach it, which is why it is, and it became a city-initiated text amendment. When the a proposal was first brought to the Plan Development Commission, the proposal was, because this is the daycare, it really is an innocuous use, was proposed to be permitted in all the districts, residential and commercial. After the first meeting of the Plan and Design Commission, it was decided to take them out, to make them conditional uses, at least in the B5. I don't know if, Joel, if you can put that chart back up. Or, you got it? Oh, sorry about that. If you look at the chart, so it was originally permitted everywhere, proposed to be permitted, and then, as you can see, it was changed to be conditional in a few of the districts, including the district where Pets for Life stands, which is the B5, the central business. So it changed to conditional use. It's somewhat interesting for them, for Pets for Life, because they already have many clients who are dropping off their pets in the morning, leaving them there all day for grooming. Grooming is a permitted use. Grooming is a permitted use in all these districts. So they're dropping them off all the time in the morning anyway, not all the time. They're frequently dropping them off in the morning and picking them up at the end of the day when they come home from work. So they're there all day anyway. But they want to be able to offer pet daycare to the community members. They've had a very strong expression of desire to have this service. And they would anticipate 10 to 15 at most. And in their case, which is why that now, if we could go back to the text amendment language, why that language was proposed, it would all be in their basement underground. So that's why we proposed the addition, thank you, that it would have to be below the ground floor. During the course of the conversation, the staff said, well, what if somebody else came in the B5 district and asked for a similar conditional use for an animal hospital, and it wasn't going to be in the ground floor? So that blue language was added to the text amendment to say, well, it could be in another part of the building if the next conditional use permit asked for this right, the ability to do pet daycare. When it was after the second Plan and Design Commission meeting that the use pet daycare dropped out entirely from the residential districts. And if you'll pardon the pun, we have no dog in that fight. That's whatever the city council wishes. We don't care about that. And we don't, Pets for Life supports what has now been presented to you. We're just saying, why make Pets for Life go through a second conditional use process? Why make your community development department staff go through that, your PDC go through that, when for all intents and purposes it's already happening, it's an innocuous use, and your code, while you're here right now with two simple changes, but you do need both of them to accomplish their goal, not just text amendment 1. Text Amendment 1 is just a clarification, because if you're creating, that's needed no matter what, in our opinion, because the Text Amendment 1, you're creating your definition of pet daycare, and you're saying, but not overnight. You can have 4 or more pets, but not overnight. That was the existing language. And we said, unless part of an animal clinic, it could be overnight. Why? Because if you look down below in Text Amendment 2, before the red and blue writing, an animal clinic can include overnight boarding. So if you drop off your pet and they're there for surgery or something, obviously they are allowed to stay overnight. So that language up on top was just to sync the two definitions, because you can have overnight pet care if you're part of an animal clinic. But the language in the second one would make it possible, if it was approved, adopted by the council, it would obviate the need for Pets for Life to have to go through a second process.
So just to clarify, the only time animals would be allowed overnight is when they're there for hospital services.
They're already allowed to do that.
Understood, but this doesn't expand that.
That doesn't change that.
It doesn't wind up with animal boarding.
Correct.
Okay, that's the main
Animal
concern.
boarding would still say, if you're doing animal or pet daycare, then it's specifically not overnight.
So that's the reason that you need
Right.
both the amendments. Understood. So
Councilmember Ross would like to comment, and Councilmember Stone. Thank you. And then we're going to wrap this up.
I'm actually okay for the moment.
Okey-doke, Councilmember Stone?
I just wanted to make sure that the motion that I seconded incorporates both 1 and 2.
I was going to ask that question because I couldn't. So, yes?
So we'll-
That was my original intent, that
Okay.
that all of the red and the blue that's on the screen, that additional language is the amendment to the ordinance that was in the package.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk call the vote, please?
Councilmember Bruckman,
Aye.
Councilmember Ross,
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia,
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. Item 18 as amended is approved.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good to see you. Item 19, consideration of a preliminary and final plan development in the nature of a special use permit, design review, subdivision, and modifications to City Code 2699 and 2745 Skokie Valley Road. I don't think we need a presentation on this. Are there any questions for the director on what you read?
And Mayor, this would just be to direct the preparation of
Of
documents.
documents, correct.
I just have one question.
Okay, what is it?
We received concerns from a neighbor regarding the flooding on the property and in the neighborhood, and I just wanted to make sure that staff is comfortable that the water detention that's being proposed would take care of all of the water from the additional impervious surface.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the proposal includes what we refer to as new infrastructure, new detention infrastructure with storage capacity needed to address the net increase in impervious area for a 100-year storm. So the net area is 8,600 and change in terms of the net increase in impervious area, and that new infrastructure has the capacity to address that additional incremental impervious area for a 100-year storm.
And the existing infrastructure there's not flooding happening or on the existing impervious surface? So the way that it's been constructed so far has, in fact, addressed the water?
I
As far as we
defer to
know.
the applicant on
Okay.
addressing that question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good evening, Mayor Rotary and council member. My name is Diego Ledesma. I'm an attorney from the law firm of Burke, Warren, McKay, and Saratello, representing the applicant. Here with us is my colleague, Matt Norton. We have the architect, Michael Szymansko from Synthesis, and our civil engineers, Tim Reber and Jay Cook from Wolpert. While we will get to your question, Councilmember Stone, I'll let our civil engineer come up. I just wanted to bring up one point, an outstanding issue that we have regarding the mechanical rooftop screening. So per the design code, all mechanical rooftop equipment must be screened from the public right-of-way and the residential district. And currently, we have the larger mechanical units on the rooftop that are individually screened. What we don't have screened is the vents, which are much smaller in size and much lower in height. What we're seeking is a variance from the design code so that we can be relieved from screening those mechanical vents. Most of the vents will not be visible, and our concern is that the screening will actually make it less visually appealing than putting up a screening wall that could be about 3 or 4 feet. What we've done today is provided we're going to present a line of sight exhibit that our architect, Michael Szymansko, will be able to walk you through.
That gives me another question. Okay. Look, let me just add one more question so you can address them both at the same time, since you mentioned the fans. There was a previous conversation earlier tonight about a building that has air conditioning units on the outside adjacent to residential homes and the noise produced by that. I just want to make sure that these fans are not going to produce noise that's going to impact the neighbors. So if you could incorporate that into your answer, that'd be great.
Absolutely. Evening, my name is Michael Szymansko from Synthesis Architects, and we're the architect for the project. The building is an existing ongoing dealership operation, so currently there are mechanical units already on the roof. In fact, there are some larger, older mechanical units on the roof, 2 of which will be being removed. 1 will be remaining. The newer units will be small, heat pump type units. They're about only 3 feet in height. By their nature, they're smaller, they're quieter units. Currently, there is no screening on the roof, and we are proposing to put screening around each of the groupings of units. So there's three groupings. The one closest to Skokie Valley Road is the longest. It's about 48 feet long, and it's 4 feet high. It's surrounded by a second area, and is there a pointer that I'd be able to use? Great. Can you zoom into this area? So this is Skokie Valley Road where the canvas, and so this is the main areas towards the front. You can see even with that, the units are set back from the edge of the parapet with the 48-inch high screening, and the back of what I would call sort of a T area is slightly taller to accommodate an existing rooftop unit that's there. There are 2 other, can you zoom in a little bit more there? Great, thank you. There's the 2 other rectangles that are towards the back of the property. Those are the smaller condensing units that are only about 3 feet tall. There's 4 in one grouping, and there's 2 in the other grouping, and those are also screened with 48-inch high screening units. We've located openings to access for service to the sides away from the residential areas and away from the streets, so they're about the least visible possible. And the screening will also help with noise. We haven't done any noise studies, but certainly would be less than what is currently there.
What's the setback between the building and the fence to the east?
I asked Tim for that answer. Tim, do you know how far we are from the back of the property to the existing fence line? I'm going to say that we're about 50 feet from the fence line to the back of the building.
That's pretty close.
Thank you. Okay, so did you get your question
Yes.
answered? Councilmember Ross?
Thank you, Mayor. Can you hear me?
Kind of.
Yeah.
I first also want to say that the images on the screen are not visible to home viewers at all. I can't see anything on the screen, haven't been able to see it since the Eganville applicant. But I wanted to ask a commissioner, the student commissioner, in fact, Jackson, had a great point at the PDC meeting that discussed this, about making sure that the screens for the mechanical equipment should have openings facing west, not east. And I don't know if that was incorporated. And that's one question, because I can't see the screen. The other question is, what about the light pole closest to the residences on the east? What did Acura do about that? They were going to shorten it or do something else. And the third question is about the 11 ornamental trees. I know that Commissioner Arnold was concerned about heat islands and pressed for more trees, not less. And I realize that this could be possibly a higher bar than the other car dealerships, but given Acura's long presence in Highland Park, hopefully they are invested in our community and are willing to do that. So the question about the screens on the roof and the light pole and the trees.
So I can speak to the openings for the screens with the rooftop units. Yes, they are to the west. They're not facing the residences or the street. So we have adjusted those and they are to the west.
I have an answer to the other question.
Director Fontaine?
And so yes, the rooftop screening was addressed. Councilmember Ross. As for the light fixtures, so one of the conditions was that no changes to the existing light fixtures except as necessary for maintenance. That was a carryover condition, except the existing light pole in the southeast corner was to be lowered. The applicant has removed that light pole. So that's in the spirit of the commission's recommendation, certainly. So that has to do with that light pole. As for the landscaping, you correctly remember that Commissioner Arnold had inquired about that and reducing the landscape variation for this project. And they did add additional ornamental trees, reducing the request to 5 instead of 11. That's consistent with the commission's conversation.
So, first of all, I want to explain that the reason Student Commissioner Jackson asked about the opening was for the issue of sound traveling out of that opening to the east, and that's why the request was for the opening to face the west. so less sound going through the opening and towards the east. Regarding the trees, I guess my hope would be to get every tree we can.
Okay. Well, they did provide the 6 extra ornamental trees. And that
And
screening,
I am glad to hear about the light bulbs.
the screening access was changed on the roof as well to have that be on the west.
Can I make a motion?
Absolutely.
I'd like a motion to pass this.
It would be to direct the preparation of the ordinance
Yeah.
for.
I'll make a motion to have staff draft the documents that are necessary to take these steps forward.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? Councilmember Bloomberg?
Just so I'm clear, I know that we've addressed the water issues. This is in a floodplain, correct? And in terms of the site as it currently is, before you do anything, is there existing detention or retention on the site?
Currently, no.
So with the expansion of impervious surface, you are adding that?
Correct. About 5,000 cubic feet in an underground vault.
And as I understand, the engineering is designed to keep the water on the site and to prevent it from leaving the site and going onto surrounding properties.
Correct, for the 100-year condition.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, we have a motion and a second. Will the clerk call the vote, please?
Excuse me.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
Councilmember, the issue about the screening, will we be receiving that variance to not have to screen the vents?
That's not on the agenda, is it?
Staff had indicated that they needed to provide additional screening of some vents. I don't know the extent to which those are shown here. I'm not sure you were providing rooftop screening. I'm not quite sure where we're talking about.
There are some minor mechanical rooftop. So you can see one here. You can see one here. There are a couple vent pipes which are not shown on the drawings because of their small scale. They're pipes that are approximately 4 to 5 inches in diameter. They stick up above the roof surface itself, only about 18 inches to 24 inches tops. Their minimal size is going to make them nearly invisible from anywhere that you could possibly see them. And they are set back from the edge of the building as well.
Director Fontaine.
So, Mayor, I would say, I don't know, the roof parapet would probably take care of that. We'll look at that between now and the drafting of the documents. If it's an issue, we'll bring it forward to rectify before you, but based on what is being said, I'm not sure that it is an issue. It's more of a verification that it's not, and that's at least my understanding. But there could be an issue, but we'd have to.
If there is an issue, we could address it in the
Yeah.
documents that we draft.
Between now and the final documents being drafted, yes.
We have a motion, we have a second. Will the clerk call the vote?
Councilmember Bruckman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays, 19. We will see again in the form of drafted documents. That's correct. The confetti continues. I am seeking a motion to go into closed session to consider closed session minutes.
So moved.
For review.
Oh, I don't have the,
You gotta get the code.
Yeah, I don't have the code number on here.
give me a second.
It's not on the
Do we know what the code section is? So we
5
can,
ILCS 120/2C.
You're good.
pursuant to the law. 21.
So moved.
Second.
Will the clerk call the vote, please?
Councilmember Bruckman.
Aye.
Councilmember Ross.
Aye.
Councilmember Tapia.
Aye.
Councilmember Stone.
Aye.
Councilmember Bloomberg.
Aye.
Mayor Rotering.
Aye, 6 ayes, no nays. We'll go into closed session.
Where are we going? There.
In there, yeah.